All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. We are completely demystifying the transition to eating organic. Look, we've all heard the stereotype, right? That notorious Whole Foods paycheck that makes eating organic seem like this totally exclusive luxury reserved only for people with bottomless grocery budgets. Well, today, we're completely shattering that myth. We're going to use our source material to map out a highly practical, no-nonsense beginner's guide to eating organic without breaking the bank. Because trust me, it's absolutely possible. And honestly, it's way easier than you probably think.
So the big question right out of the gate, does eating organic mean you're gonna go broke? The answer is a resounding no. Upgrading your groceries is actually a highly actionable, totally stress-free process as long as you have the right strategies in place. It's not about magic, you guys. It's really just about method.
And here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to hit 4 key phases: the organic budget mindset, planning before you shop, smart supermarket strategies, and finally, kitchen habits and consistency. So let's get into it.
Starting off with Phase 1, the organic budget mindset, focusing on progress over perfection.
You know how when people decide they're going to eat clean, sheer panic sets in and they suddenly feel this urge to just chuck everything in their pantry into the trash? Yeah, don't do that. The absolute key here is to relieve that anxiety by starting gradually. Maybe this week, your only goal is just swapping your milk and apples to organic. That's it. You've got to pace yourself to protect your sanity and your wallet. Remember, we are aiming for realistic, sustainable shifts over time, not some kind of crazy overnight overhaul.
Moving right along to Phase 2, planning before you shop, which is all about setting up your guardrails.
Having a simple, really concrete procedure is what protects you from your own worst enemy. And we all know who that is: shopping when you're hungry. First up, sit down and create a realistic grocery budget. Second, actually plan your meals before you leave the house. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, stick strictly to a grocery list. This framework is your best defense against those wildly expensive impulse buys. Seriously, if it wasn't planned at your kitchen table, it does not go in the cart. End of story.
All right, Phase 3 brings us to smart supermarket strategies, or what I like to call the aisle strategy.
Once you're actually in the aisles, you need a solid tactical arsenal. Always compare prices across stores, because organic markups fluctuate wildly depending on if you're at a local grocer versus a massive chain. Also, buy seasonal produce. When nature is abundant, prices naturally drop. Next, lean heavily on store brand organics. They are almost always significantly cheaper than the flashy big-name brands. And finally, buy in bulk whenever it makes sense. If you leverage just these few strategies, you're going to see a massive difference at the checkout register. Now this is a fun one. People so often assume that eating healthy means every single thing in your cart must be fresh picked from a local farm. Not true. Opting for frozen organic produce is an incredible budget hack. Think about it. They're flash frozen right at peak ripeness, they're usually way cheaper, and best of all, they aren't going to turn into some expensive, wilted science experiment at the back of your fridge by Friday.
And to really build your culinary foundation, you absolutely must leverage affordable organic staples. We're talking oats, rice, beans, and lentils. These are your volume anchors. Buying these dry and in bulk is just amazingly cheap. Plus, having these on hand allows you to stretch your much more expensive organic ingredients, like meats or those fancy specialty veggies, so much further across your weekly meals.
And that brings us home to Phase 4, kitchen habits and consistency, which is all about the follow-through.
Here is the absolute golden rule, folks. You have to cook more meals at home. Look, you can source the absolute most affordable organic groceries on the entire planet, but if you cave and order takeout on a Tuesday just because you don't feel like cooking, well, the whole budget is totally blown. Transforming those carefully chosen ingredients yourself is literally the ultimate key to making this work.
0. That is our target number for food waste. And hey, we've all been guilty of this, right? Letting those poor, forgotten vegetables die a tragic death in the crisper drawer. We need to rescue them through proper storage and by getting way more creative with leftovers. Toss last night's roasted veggies right into a morning omelet. Doing that maximizes the sheer value of every single organic dollar you spend. As you look at this timeline, keep in mind that success doesn't happen overnight. It requires a bit of a long horizon. In week 1, your one and only goal is just to track your spending and establish a baseline. Then, by month 1, you take that real-world data and start adjusting your habits. Fast forward to year 1, and you're going to be maintaining a totally sustainable, basically effortless routine. Success here comes from continuously tracking and adjusting as you figure out exactly which specific swaps work best for your unique family.
Ultimately, this entire explainer boils down to one simple, powerful thesis from our source text. Focus on consistency rather than perfection. Eating organic on a budget is really just about showing up and making slightly better choices day by day. Please do not hold yourself to some impossible, flawless standard, and definitely don't feel guilty for buying a regular, conventional bell pepper when the budget is running a little tight. We've all been there.
So, as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a challenge. What is one item, just one, that you will swap for an organic version this week? Start looking at your grocery receipt not as some painful sunk cost, but as a literal, tangible investment in your long-term health. If every single dollar you spend is a vote for the food system you actually want, how are you going to cast your very first ballot on your next shopping trip? Pick one thing, start there, and just watch the rest follow.